Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast. It's a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the subscribers, the listeners over at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast audio listening. Make sure you review on Apple Podcasts. And also a big shout out to those watching right here on YouTube. We are subscribing, right? We are liking, right? We doing these things, right? We doing all of them, right? I just want to make sure, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about you, just trying to make sure real quick. But the channel is growing and we're trying to get to the next stage of what that is. I hate to say the number, but we're real close to 20,000. Okay. We're really close. So if you haven't already, above 90% of the people who subscribe to this channel, I mean, not subscribe to this channel, but those people who watch videos here, about 90% of you aren't subscribed. So maybe you forgot. Maybe you don't want to subscribe, and that's also cool. But also know, if you like the content, the best thing you can do is subscribe, like, and share with people, and obviously comment. Also, if you didn't know, we now have memberships right here on the channel. So you can become a member of this channel. And what does that bring, right? Okay, well, I just put out a video that was exclusive, limited, timed exclusive, but exclusive, no doubt, about some of the standout features in hip hop history. I'm probably going to do a part 2, but as a member, you can get the jump on that, right? You can comment, converse, not conversate, but converse with your fellow hip hop heads about, the topic and things like that. But also what your support does is it goes right back into the podcast. I've done this for years at this point. I've used support initially from Patreon, but support from people who listen to the podcast or watch the podcast to purchase equipment, to pay for software to edit, to bring new features, right? Like things that make the content a little bit more enjoyable. Like I mentioned, like using the proper software. Maybe there's a certain tier I'd like to get to. Obviously, I don't have enough supporters to pay for all of this, but it does pay for a portion. And more importantly, sometimes if it's only a couple of people, well, that will pay for advertisement on social media sites. So again, if you enjoy the content here, you support the content, please know that your money isn't going to my coffee habit, okay? Because I got one, okay? It's not going to, oh, I see Vegas got a new chain. I bought that? No, you did not. I did. But what you can look at is this video's in 4K. This microphone I'm talking, the camera, maybe even the laptop, even though I paid for most of that, and I wish you would have paid for it, but that's just not how it works. But the software, which is monthly. So all those different things contribute to the podcast, taking your dollars and putting them to great use based off of your interest, which is Hip Hop Now Podcast. So without further ado, let's get started. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, X, Twitter, you know what I mean, and a couple of places where I'm getting some of my stories from. Let's get right into the business, though. Jay-Z's Imaginary Players saw a resurgence in Billboard as well as streaming, up to 300% higher than previously. Imaginary Players is one of the standout records on Jay-Z's sophomore album that to me is very divisive. It's not a classic, so relax. But, and some people would say it was his wackest album that's not true, because some of Jay-Z's greatest songs are on this album, and it's not like one or two. It's a couple of them, of at least a couple that I like. But Imaginary Players is one of them. And recently, Cardi B, who is getting a new album ready, released her version of Imaginary Players, basically using the same beat, same concept as Jay-Z, where in Jay-Z's original record, he was talking about, guys who are saying, they got money, but they really don't. Pretending, naming all these things like, where's the Hummer at that you talked about in your raps, but it's not around. Those ain't Rolex diamonds. What the you done to that, right? Saying I got diamonds in my Rolex, but when Jay-Z sees it, it's not up to snuff. So it was a flex type song. It also was a diss to Mace. He dissed Mace twice on 2 albums, right? He dissed him on Hard Knock Life, but this was also like a lot of subliminals towards Mace. So it was a lot of, it was a very dope record back then. What Cardi B did was her version of that. And it's pretty dope. Now, what she say? She had a line. Now, this is a family podcast. I know some may have seen me on other podcasts cursing, but not here. Okay, not this one. We cussed on the last one. Not again. Okay. But she said a line like, y'all glory holes, you don't know who you effing with. That's a bar. Okay. And if you don't know what a glory hole is, I'm not really going to tell you. I'll just say this. If you go to Google it, put it on private, because you don't know what's going to come up on your screen. Do not do it at work. Don't do it on your phone and you can't get rid of it. Don't do any of that. If anything, the safest way is just to ask somebody you know. Okay? The best thing you can do is ask somebody you know. But it's still a bar. And, obviously the streams went up because there are a number of fans of Cardi B who probably never heard the original. And then when they heard it was a Jay-Z record, who they do know, and they, for some reason, they think Beyonce made him famous, which is crazy. They went and looked it up and to listen to the original, maybe to compare them. For those of us who heard it, we might have went back and said, yo, I want to run this back and listen to it again. I haven't heard that song in a while. I haven't heard that album in a while. So nevertheless, Jay-Z benefited from Cardi B doing this over. But more importantly, she did an excellent job. Like, that was just one bar I gave. But again, if you think of the essence of the original and what Jay-Z was saying and who he was talking about in that original, I mean, what do you want? You know what I'm saying? What more do you want, fam? Like, at the end of the day, it is what it is. So I enjoyed it. I don't think this will be any indication of what her album will be. So if you're feeling like, whoa, that record was crazy, I think I'm going to go check out what Cardi has to offer. It's not going to be all that, right? It's not going to be a bunch of bars and stuff like that. Maybe a couple of other records will be, but that one in particular, that's just what it is. So enjoy it for what it is. Next. So the dude, Fivio Foreign, appeared on Jim Jones's new podcast. Maybe that's why he kept saying all the nonsense he was saying. But he essentially said that he couldn't really spit a Nas bar. I think he said the only record he knew was One Mic, or that he was familiar with. Now, keep in mind, Fivio Foreign was on Nas's album that came out not that long ago, 5 years ago to be exact, King's Disease 1, which is crazy because it seemed, now I watched him say this, right? So I didn't take quotes based off of what he said, even though I think I have a quote here. He says, all right, let's just get the quote. This is on hiphopdx.com. You can find the interview on, or the clip of the interview on Jim Jones's Instagram page. I know somebody's saying right now, why would I follow Jim Jones? Hey, he dropped a new album this year. I kind of like it. I'm just saying. But this is what Fivio Foreign said. I'm not saying that the man is whack. He's a legend. Wait, I was confused because it looked like he said he's not a legend. Okay, I'm not saying that the man is whack. He's not a legend. I got a song with the N word. I got a song on the album, and the album got a Grammy. But I can't sit there and say a Nas bar to you or a song. I like one mic. So that's what he said. Now, part of me is not upset about it from the standpoint of, him being younger than some of us, right? You certain things weren't on the radio. Even if Nas was dropping albums, that didn't mean like because Fivio Foreign's from New York, that didn't mean like Nas was being played all over the radio and why like that. Honestly, it wasn't. That culture of catching the latest bars in hip hop on New York radio, sometimes you don't even get that on Funkmaster Flex show anymore at night. So I get it if the attention was on other artists for him, right? But at some point, as a guy, because he's an artist also, as a guy who does this very thing in hip hop, and Nas is still active, it's just irresponsible to say. Again, he's not saying he's whack. He's not saying that he's not a legend. He's just saying that, he couldn't spit a bar. Now, let me just say this. He's there to say that in Jim Jones's case, to support Jim Jones's case of the kids know my music, but they don't know Nas. To Jim Jones, that makes him relevant. Jim Jones, I like your album, but you've never spit one bar. You've never had any impact close to Nas. And the fact that the kids know your music is a little bit more disturbing, not because your music is better or more popular, but because you dress like them. And you kind of act like them. I say all that to say you're kind of immature. So there's a way. Now, again, Dipset had their impact later, so that plays a role. And Jimmy was a part of that. And he wasn't a whack part of that. Like, I'm not even going to try to pretend that either. He wasn't. But at the same time, we know why this is circulating, because it got him some attention, and here's somebody who can prove his point. Now, here's the other thing. Fivio Foreign is whack to me. He is. Like, he's not a good rapper to me. Now, he was kind of a good actor when I saw him on, what was it? Kanan. I thought he was good. Like, and even though he was playing a rapper, he had personality. And I'm not saying he should quit rapping. There are people, obviously, who like him. But I felt like every time I heard him, he wasn't good. And I like Pop Smoke better. Like, Pop Smoke to me had the voice, the cadence, the allure. Like, he kind of just, Pop Smoke felt like he was, now, I know the pause gods, but he was touching, pause, other generations with his music, because I know a lot of people from my era who kind of liked Pop Smoke also. But Fivio Foreign is just too basic. Jim is better than him. Jimmy's way better than him to me. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other thing. Your taste in hip hop is probably tied to your ability in hip hop, right? I can't do what Nas is doing, so my interest is kind of. But Jimmy talks the stuff that I like, and I grew up on Dipset, so maybe it's that. So I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I'm not trying to kill him for it. I'm just giving my opinion. I don't think he's that good of a rapper. I don't think he's lying about what he's saying about Nas as far as him not knowing. But the fact that a Hit Boy run just happened, and it wasn't just us. It wasn't just the old heads that was going crazy. I saw it. You can go to YouTube now. You see cats younger than Fivio Foreign listening to Illmatic and loving it. So stop even putting that information out there like, oh, he's a legend, but I don't really listen to it. Because that says to the kids who don't even know who Nas is, he's not worth my time because the guy I like don't even like it. It seems stupid. And lastly, so because I did a special bonus episode of this podcast, I was almost not going to do an episode, and I probably won't have one next week. If you're from the future, what are you talking about? Get your ass out of here. It's probably already October. Okay. But I wasn't going to do an episode this week, but I had to because I felt like 2 albums went by that I at least needed to put my review out there. And the first one we're going to talk about is Chance the Rapper's brand new album entitled Starline. This is the 3rd album for Chance the Rapper. Obviously, he won a Grammy for, his debut, which used to be talked about as a mixtape, but just like Section 80, now they trying to say it's an album. Dog, they were saying mixtape when it dropped. Okay, but Coloring Book, which to me, I'm not gonna hold you, that's a classic to me. That's a classic album. No barking, relax. It's not barred up and nobody's getting shot and drinking and standing on the block. It's just a really good album musically. His rapping and all that is great. If you never checked it out, check it out. Good variety in hip hop. His last album dropped, and I forget the name. It's the one where he's holding like a clear CD. I never understood that, but I don't care about that part. Most people didn't like it. They felt like it was lackluster. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I like Chance the Rapper. I like him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know him personally, but I like his voice. I like his style of rapping. He's out of Chicago, if you didn't know. I like the song choices. Most of the time, I like the beats. So going into a 3rd album where I feel like one is a classic and this one was good, what does this new album, Starline, sound like? So before we get into that, I just need to let the new people know. So people who've been here, just chill. You already know what I'm going to say, but this is my review scale. I basically give the albums 3 listens, right? 3 listens off the rip to basically, 1, get my first impressions. Just listen to the album. Whatever's there, just listen. My second listen is typically to listen intently, listen to the lyrics, the beats, the concept, all that good stuff. And the third listen is just to confirm my thoughts. So, Starline, Chance the Rapper's 3rd album. There are about 17 songs. Total runtime is 1 hour and 8 minutes. Total features include Doe or Die, BJ the Chicago Kid, Vic Minster, Joey Badass, Young Thug is on here, Lil Wayne's on here, Jay Electronica's on here, Jasmine Sullivan. It's a roster of people. And for those who need a quick review, when I was done with my 3 listens, it's another good album. Now, I feel like it starts off really strong. And then somewhere in the middle, I kind of got to the point, especially on the 3rd listen, where there was like 1 or 2 tracks. I was like, I'll probably skip those because even though, again, songs are meaningful, whatever's there is meaningful, I felt like some of the sonic ground had already been covered in the first couple of records. Or also, it didn't feel like it matched the tone of what was set because the tone of what was set went on for so long that I felt like this is the vibe of the album. Oh, wait a minute. There's a whole other vibe happening now. So it was one of those. And I've noticed that happened with a couple of rappers recently that I've listened to where it's somewhere in the middle, things start to switch up. And we don't know if it's going to go downhill from there or be a roller coaster or stay the course. With this album, I feel like it's more of a roller coaster towards that middle part to the end. But there's way more songs on here I like than not. I think it's a great album. I think it's the comeback that I assume so most of his fans would want based off of his Second album, again, I liked it, but I know a lot of people who didn't like. That was a common saying about his second album. Yo, we don't like it. Let me just say the name because that's driving me crazy that I'm not saying the name of the album when I could just look it up right here. The Big Day. That was the name of it. And I think that was a double album. Yeah, basically 22 songs. So his last album was in 2019. So if you like Chance the Rapper and you were kind of so on the last album from him, check this one out. I think it's good. I think it's one of the better albums of the year. But again, when it comes to that list, things are going to shift because it's getting crazy now. There's so many albums on the way. We don't know if some things will stay. That Clips album staying in my top 5, though, I'm saying. Next up, highly anticipated. We waited and waited when we heard about it. We heard different things about the album. It's been in the works for a long time. Supreme Clientele 2 by Ghostface just dropped. It is the third release in Mass Appeal's 7 Icons, 7 albums. I think Mobb Deep is up next, either Mobb Deep or Big L, but I think it's Mobb Deep. But now, well, first we got Slick Rick, then we got Raekwon, and now we get his partner in rhyme, Ghostface Killah. On this album, there are 22 tracks, including skits, but the album is only 50 minutes. Features include Method Man, Nims, Sun God, Jizza is on here. Obviously, Raekwon's on here, Styles P, Conway the Machine, M.O.P., and Nas is on this album. And for those who need the quick review, it is a good album. It is not Supreme Clientele 2. I only say that because the tone of this album feels less like a Supreme Clientele sequel, and it feels more like a sequel to Fish Scale. Like the types of records, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. It feels in that lane. Bulletproof Wallets felt more like the original, not what Sony released with all songs missing and tracks out of order and all that garbage that they messed up. Talk about the original track listing. That felt like a sequel to Supreme Clientele. He could have called that Supreme Clientele 2, and I would have been like, yeah, it is. Whereas this one feels like it's Fish Scale 2. Or Pretty Tony. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or he could have just gave it a different name, a new name. This could have been Set the Tone. His last album called Set the Tone had some records on it, but then there was some experiments towards the end and it just wasn't good. This probably should have been Set the Tone because this is the Ghost we know and love. Yes, if you heard me talk about it before, gruff voice, Ghostface is here, but so is the other Ghost because a lot of these records were recorded a long time ago when his voice was different. It was what you remembered. But I'm also not mad at gruff voice Ghost. And I think that has to do a little bit with, I think there's more personality on this album. And you know what else doesn't make this Supreme Clientele 2? I remember Ghost said he was in Africa or something like that, and he watched a performance or saw a performance and how like their patterns or whatever. I don't know if somebody was singing or chanting or whatever. And he started to do that. And that's where he came up with those rhymes where he was just saying a bunch of different words together. Fans think it means something. Ghostface himself said it does not. I was just rhyming words. That's not on here. That to me is what doesn't make it a sequel to Supreme Clientele 2 because that played such a huge role and why that album was so dope. Again, this album isn't whack, but it's good. Standouts for me, I like the Curtis May joint with Styles P and Conway the Machine. Ghost does his thing. Styles get busy. Conway get really busy on this joint. I like the record Fourth Disciple, Windows. Georgie Porgy, I knew it was probably going to have the beat that's been used a million times. But I didn't expect Ghost to sing the hook. But I don't think I would have liked it if they got an R&B person to sing a hook. So I don't know. Maybe that was one that could have stayed. Break Beats is hot. Beatbox might be my favorite. I'm not even gonna lie. I really like that joint. And what else? I like the single Metaphysics. Love Me More with Nas is cool also. But overall, and there's one joint, I forget the name now. Oh, The Trial, which features Raekwon, Method Man, and GZA. It's a concept type thing. But what I like a lot, I really like Fourth Disciple because it's almost like a sequel. Remember on the Into the 36 Chambers when somebody got shot? Like Ghost is real good, unfortunately, at describing somebody being outside. In this case, I guess it was his homie, and he's he got shot and he's dying, and Ghost is describing the scenery, but he's also telling you his thoughts and why, like, I need you not to die right now, for these reasons. He's really good at that. And he does it again on this album. And I think this album got the songs for the ladies. He got concepts, like I said, with The Trial. And also there was one other thing, the skits. Now, with Raekwon's album, he had a bunch of skits also. But those Raekwon skits sometimes just be whatever. Like what was it, Longbeard Cop or something like that? Like Officer Longbeard. Like he just make them up, and sometimes they're funny because they're kind of ridiculous. Ghost's skits were definitely funny, and remember, Supreme Clientele has some classic skits on it, right? I didn't mind the Ghost skits as much, I think, because I thought they were funnier, right? Like he got one that's talking about pause, and he's making a statement about it, and I think it's funny, Now, what happens when I'm listening to this album again and again and again? Some of them might get skipped. I don't know if I did that on Supreme Clientele, but again, I feel like Supreme Clientele 2 is not necessarily a worthy successor, but it's not a whack album. It's a good album. I think it's also one of the better albums of the year. It's going to be tough, like between Raekwon and Ghost right now, being part of the 7. Y'all know how I felt about Slick Rick. I'm sorry. I love Slick Rick, but y'all just didn't do it for me. But Ray and Ghost albums, it'll be tough to bump them out of the top 10 for me, because the top 10 I have so far, right, or the top 15 that I have so far, some of those things were there because they were just the best albums that had dropped since the new year. But I think we're starting to get more content that's pretty dope, and the more that it drops, the more I'm inclined to go back and listen to whatever record I'm about to bump out for this record, and vice versa. By the end of the year, I'll have my list and it'll be definitive, and I'll have my reasons why. But Supreme Clientele 2 is a good album. It's better than Ghost's last album, Set the Tone, hands down. But if you are expecting a true to life, 1-to-1, Supreme Clientele 2, no. I feel like Only Built for Cuban Links 2 was a better sequel to Raekwon's debut than Supreme Clientele 2 is to Supreme Clientele. But what do you think? Did you hear Ghostface's brand new album, Supreme Clientele 2? Did you hear Chance the Rapper's new album, Starline? Leave your review in the comment section below. You can follow me on social media at Vegas World INC. And please know that you can subscribe in audio form if you don't feel like looking at me. Like, I don't want to listen to you, but I don't want to look at you. You can do that too. Apple Podcast, Spotify, and all that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel. Know that we have merch, and all kinds of things that can support the channel. But most importantly, we have memberships. Okay, you can click the link on the screen. I think you can try it, but if not, the link is in the description of this episode. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic, I'm a fan. Peace.